By most accounts, it was a successful first season in the Big Ten for Rutgers, finishing off with a bowl victory against North Carolina. We bring in Kevin Recio of On the Banks on the SB Nation platform to talk about National Signing Day. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us as always. Let's break down the class, and let's start with a question I always like to begin with in terms of that final day. There's always those 3 or 4 guys that are leaning one way or the other that are on your team's list, and it's a make or break situation, whether you close strong or whether you lose out on some of those last minute guys. So how did Kyle Flood finish?
Well, Mark, first of all, thanks for having me on. There was one player who left National Signing Day to choose between Rutgers and another school, and that was cornerback Jarius Adams out of St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida. Jarius Adams was a recruit, a commit to Rutgers until last summer. His recruitment heated up near the end when Jim Harbaugh was hired at Michigan, and Harbaugh decided to make a big run after Jarius Adams. Adams decided to take an official visit. He said he loved Michigan growing up. He just wanted to see what it was like. And he left us, Chop Nation, waiting in the wings for a little bit. But once signing day rolled around, he announced on Twitter that he would stick with his Rutgers commitment. So it was a big recruiting coup for Kyle Flood and a nice way to finish the 2015 recruiting campaign.
Yeah, when you start to hear comments about this is the school I loved and the team that I followed when I was a kid, and who knows what's going to happen when you get the likes of Jim Harbaugh in front of a kid like that. But that went Rutgers' way on that final day. So in addition to looking at this signing class of 24, Kevin, who do you really are anticipating seeing on the field that really could give this program a boost?
Well, the biggest name is definitely Marques Ford. He's a consensus 4-star recruit, also out of Florida. Originally committed to Tennessee, but he ran into some misunderstandings with the coaching staff there in regards to his scholarship. He found himself without a home for a little bit, but Rutgers was one of the first to offer Marques Ford back early on, and credit the coaching staff, specifically defensive line coach Jim Panagos, going back down there, reestablishing that pipeline, and getting him to commit shortly after, before any other suitors could come in and sort of steal Marques Ford away. He's got great size, great speed, sort of that SEC-type defensive line player that almost every team in the country wants. So I can definitely see him contributing right away, especially with some of the defensive line players that Rutgers is losing going into 2015.
Kevin Recio from On the Banks on the SB Nation platform for Rutgers Athletics joining us. Kevin, in looking at that first season in the Big Ten, which I think we would agree was a good one, in finishing with 8 wins, that 25-point comeback against Maryland. But of course, players move on. There were certainly some issues on the field in certain spots in 2014. Trying to stop the pass would be one of them. Transitioning to 2015, where do you think possibly some of the players that were signed just a few weeks ago could initially step in?
Well, I actually thought that defensive back, the secondary, was the strongest and deepest part of this recruiting class, which really helps because Rutgers loses quite a few starters in the secondary. Lorenzo Waters is a longtime starter at safety. Jonathan Aiken was another senior at safety. But Rutgers gets some good players in the backfield. Ronnie James, who turned down an offer from Ohio State to join Rutgers, and his brother Paul James is the current running back at Rutgers right now. So he looks like a good player who might be able to contribute right away. Another player out of Paramus Catholic, Najee Clayton, who's probably the second highest ranked recruit in the class overall, could see playing time right away in terms of finding the field in 2015.
Kevin, I know it's only been 1 year, full season in the Big Ten, 2 recruiting classes to a certain extent. Is there any noticeable difference in the approach of the coaching staff in going out and getting some talent?
So far, it's been the same, I would say. The focus is always on New Jersey. New Jersey's definitely been a hotbed of recruiting lately, and with the Big Ten coming along, the profile of Rutgers is raised. At the same time, it opens up teams like Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan to recruit kids and tell them that they have a chance to play in their home state, at least once every 2 years. So it's a little bit of a give and take. We haven't seen that large profile raised yet. That might come in 2016. But if you remember from the 2014 class, there was a rash of decommitments. with Kyle Flood. You know, players like Saeed Blacknall and Kai Hester, Jonathan Hillman. Those guys decommit at the last second, leaving Rutgers looking weak, without a better word to say. This 2015 class, I think it showed that Rutgers can bounce back strong and could be even on a better trajectory moving forward.
So, Kevin, you mentioned the state of New Jersey, one of the stronger states for high school football play, really in the nation. I would guess it's on the fringe of the top 10, something in that range. You allude to the strength there, which I hear, based on our conversation before we came on, is going to be even a better possible recruiting ground for 2016.
Definitely. On Twitter, the hashtag is rolling around, hashtag RUDreamTeam16. And it all starts with quarterback Jared Guarantano. He's been an Ohio State lean for a while, but in the past couple days, Rutgers has actually made a lot of headway, and if you look at the 24/7 crystal ball predictions, a lot of them are changing to Rutgers. He's a four-star quarterback ranked 6th nationally by rivals as a QB prospect. The kind of player you build a program around. You know, in college football, if you talk about a franchise player like that or a program builder, he's the one. If you get him, it's possibly a lot of other recruits start rolling in, like the #1 overall prospect in the nation, Rashawn Gary, who is out of Paramus Catholic. If you get a quarterback like Jared Guarantano, there's no telling what else could happen, and that's what Rutgers needs to do to secure a phenomenal 2016 class.
I'm thinking that there's probably some Rutgers fans, alumni, students out there that are nudging this kid to look at the Ohio State quarterback depth chart because it hasn't gotten any easier there with the 3 that they have, and then they just brought in 2 more that are highly.
About that. You know, the kids these days, they know everything about the programs now. I mean, it's not hard to, you know, Google what does the Ohio State depth chart look like, and you don't even have to do that. You just look at the national championship game. There were, you know, 3 Heisman finalists sitting, 1 playing, 2 sitting on the sidelines with injuries, and they're all expected to come back as of right now. And then they just signed 2 quarterback prospects in the 2015 class. You'd have to think you have a better chance of playing somewhere else. So that's definitely a part of it as well.
6th-rated quarterback in the country. That would be great for Rutgers. That would be big-time stuff. And again, you mentioned the possible domino effect, and that could be a game changer if you've got a kid that you can throw out there for potentially. And we know that there are busts, and that the recruiting rankings sometimes don't follow suit and follow through. But most likely, you've got a quarterback for about 3 years, and that would be a good thing.
Absolutely, and you know, nowadays recruiting isn't only done by the coaches. These high schoolers, they recruit each other now too. So having a star player like him, it would be huge.
Right, Kevin Recio from On the Banks on SB Nation. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, Kevin, we appreciate the insight into this, and hopefully we can get you back on close to spring practice.
Absolutely, Mark. Looking forward to the next time.